I want to go to Thailand now because we want to catch up with Colin Rubenstein, who's with the Australian Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. He's in Phuket at the moment. Great to talk to you again, Colin. I want to draw attention. You may not have been across this because it's an interview that I'm yet to play in this program, but a man that you would know well, the former Labor Defence Material Minister Mike Kelly, has actually called out the link between Labor's stance on Israel at the United Nations and elsewhere and feeding into the extremism here at home. We're seeing these anti-Semitic attacks at home. He says there's a direct link between these two and Labor needs to more strongly support Israel in international forums. Your response?
Look, Mike Kelly is a very good judge, and I think it's undeniable that the government cannot claim no responsibility for the terrible rise of anti-Semitism in Australia. I mean, they've been consistently one-sided and biased in their approach. Since coming to government, of course, they tilted against Israel. They withdrew recognition of West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. They insisted on calling the territories occupied Palestinian territories. They changed their votes in the UN. But since October 7, we've seen an avalanche of one-sided, ill-informed, unrealistic, morally confused positions by this government. And we saw so much of that reiterated again in the very one-sided, deeply disappointing Hawke lecture by the Foreign Minister the other night in Adelaide, claiming somehow an equivalence between Israel's very lawful self-defence with the abhorrent behaviour of Russia and China. I mean, Israel is complying with international law to the hilt, and it's the failure to attack the tactics of Hamas, their human shield and human sacrifice tactics, deliberately putting at risk innocent Palestinian lives that we find the government not focusing on. 1,200 people killed on October 7, 250 hostages. Where's the continued demand for the release of those hostages? And the false sort of notion about two-state resolution, calling for the recognition of a Palestinian state now, when we know the history is the Palestinians do not want two states. They've wanted one state. They rejected very viable, genuine offers of two states. Ask President Clinton. Ask Prime Minister Barack.
Indeed.
When Arafat walked away, Olmert put one forward. And even Netanyahu, who's probably accused of not being interested in this path. It may be an option, but it'll take decades of reforming the Palestinian culture.
Yeah. It's a fine aspiration, but it's a delusional concept at the moment, that's for sure. And never forget those hostages, almost 100 of them, still unaccounted for. But I do want to go to what Anthony Albanese did today, Colin, because when he visited the Jewish Museum in Darlinghurst in Sydney, he was asked about Australia's changed position at the United Nations, and he claimed that he was still a strong supporter of Israel. Here's Anthony Albanese.
There's no change to Australia's position. Australia's position is we support a two-state solution. I said that last night, the right of Israel to exist in secure borders. I also have been a long-term supporter of Palestinian state, and I think, though, very clearly that cannot involve Hamas.
So, Colin, Australia changes its vote but not its position. Your reaction?
Well, of course, that's an untenable statement by the Prime Minister. Australia has tilted heavily against Israel in a way that's counterproductive to the reasonable long-term objectives. I mean, most Israelis were for a two-state outcome 20 years ago, but what they've seen, the Palestinians don't want it. Hamas exists to destroy Israel and kill Jews, and the Palestinian Authority, with their pay-to-slay tactics and so on, aren't much better. So what we need is not to reward that terrorism by calling for a Palestinian state now. What we need is the de-Hamasification of the Palestinians, like we saw the denazification of the Germans after World War II. So you have a Palestinian culture and people and leadership willing to live in peace alongside Israel rather than being committed to its destruction. And that's what the premature call for a Palestinian state now, of course, undermines. It does the exact opposite to what the Prime Minister claims that he wants. So the policy is not only unrealistic, it doesn't deal with the realities, it's morally confused and quite counterproductive to the end result that many want.
Colin, Colin Rubenstein, thanks very much. I appreciate it. We are out of time. I appreciate it. Happy Hanukkah to you, and we'll catch up with you in the new year. Colin Rubenstein there joining us live from Thailand.